Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Worship Guitar Show. Pleasure to see you here. Number 49, that's almost like 52 weeks. This is nuts. Want to thank you for hanging out, whether you're joining us live or watching on the replay. You know, really, as I was thinking about this show, I was like, how can I best serve you? Which is a question that I actually have the pleasure of asking myself a lot these days. Not because it's about me, but when you have the opportunity to serve other people and hopefully inspire people to go someplace that they might not have necessarily gotten to yet, it's a huge opportunity. So with that said, the goal of tonight is to provide some really practical approaches for helping you take your guitar playing and your guitar journey someplace noticeably different without throwing the proverbial baby out with the bathwater. Brad, what's going on? Hello, everybody. I will be down in the chat once I kind of finish the Focus Fox thing that I find serves me well in making sure that I do not rabbit trail. One of my weaknesses that I'm working on overcoming. But, you know, if you confess your weaknesses, hopefully, then, All right, so here's the thing. I absolutely love guitar. And one of the unique things that happens in my journey is I'm constantly devouring bits of information such that if there was an inner fat man of guitar, I get fatter every day. I was on the road today driving to pick up a piece of gear, and I happened to have an Apple Music playlist. And as all these different things came in, one of the active listening things that was happening, because I'm constantly gobbling stuff up. As you guys know, I love to demonstrate gear. Most notably because it helps other musicians realize their thing. Like the kind of the inside out approach, which is like, I get a chance to leverage my gift so I can help develop yours. That thing is a very special place to live and ruminate in. So in the process of that, part of my research and development is listening to music. So I was listening to all this different stuff going, oh, this person and this person and this person. And the idea is constantly mining data. And as an end result, the things that come out musically reflect that. So I wanted to really kind of digest some of the specific pieces, because every week I seem to be around people that are showing me things and inspiring me to do things. Last week, I believe I mentioned Larry Mitchell and his revelatory kind of, Doug, let me spoon feed you this. You love playing in stereo, but it doesn't actually have to be hard left and hard right, or kind of the guitar is hugging the center and then your delays left and right the entire time. And that for me was just kind of like, whew. And he did it in such a lovely way. I could tell he was like, you're kind of missing it, son. So let me take you underneath my arm and let me gently walk you across the Jordan here, right? And it was so lovely the way he did it, and it was so inspiring. So first on our list, very first on our list. Oh, my word. I selected the wrong... in any case, all right, fine. So it's supposed to start there. 5 tips for playing better. So first is pay attention. No, at the top of the list is listen like a producer. And this is really kind of what my big takeaway from Larry Mitchell was, is that he's not just thinking like a guitar player where I love the auditory experience of having that stereo field, and that if I'm using 2 amps or 1 amp with 2 cabinet models, having them hug the center but not on top of the lead vocal, if you will, the worship leader, and then the delays pan hard left and hard right as well as the reverbs. It kind of creates kind of almost this, the analogy I've got is the wake of a boat. The center of the boat is the lead vocals, and then I'm kind of off like this, and I've got this wake of delay and reverb coming off of where I'm hugging kind of, if you will, the back of the boat, and all this stuff it comes out like that. But Larry's comment was think like a producer. In the implicit comment was. So I want to unpack that because I've made records, and it's one thing to be on a worship team. Tomorrow I'm going to be playing bass with a team here in my hometown that I'll actually be playing on Sunday. Bass, 2 services, which I'm super, super excited about. But the thing is that when I come into a situation, I could, especially because of the rinse and repeat nature of this thing going, What are my parts? I memorize the parts. I do the best I can do with the parts, and that's it. But kind of with the Larry kind of 10,000 foot view thing, it's like, well, there's my parts and there's the tones that I normally go for, and then there's kind of going, what is like, if I were to take my blinders off, what's kind of right there, right in front of me that I just didn't see? And without these, not much. But actually, I don't need these to drive, so you'd be perhaps happy to know that if you lived nearby me. The point being is that as a producer, you begin to go, am I painting with the same brush over and over without thinking about being intentional about doing? Look, if AC30, for me, it's a Dynacomp, 2 AC30s, stereo delay and reverb. If that floats your boat 24/7 or whatever your version of that is, awesome. But the danger of I'll go there, of falling in love with your own musical image if you go there, as was like, my tone sucks, I just want to I don't know what to do. But I love what I've learned to do because it enables me to go someplace. But if you get so used to kind of driving down the road that you kind of don't go, is there another way home that I didn't think about that may actually serve the team better? That's what I'm talking about, because I really love the way that sounds, but I'm thinking like a guitar player and not thinking like a producer. So as a guitar player that produces, I am aware of, like, again, the fact that I'm like, how am I supporting the vocals? But that's still a very guitar-centric thing. That is to say, I'm thinking about the one thing that if I put my guitar right in the center, everybody's going to complain. So I'm like, oh, I found my hack. I'll put, either 1 amp and 2 cabinets, or 2 amps, and if they have a separate cab block, kind of like this, about 30% left and right, if you will. And in so doing, it's still a very guitar-centric thing. So what does a producer actually listen for? They're listening, and there's a comment about this in one of the points that we're going to get to in a little bit, but they are listening to, if we could say that each song is like a living, breathing musical creation in which the Holy Spirit resides, we want to actually take the pulse of each one of those pieces of music. And if you think about, when you wake up in the morning, horizontal, you put your feet on the ground, get a little caffeine in you, you have different pulses over the course of the day. And every song, as it goes through its dynamic register, has different pulses as well. And a producer, and this is one of the things that Larry just kind of says, like, look, in this particular part of the song, I want to kind of fill all the stereo space. But then in the breakdown, because almost every song has a bridge, you want to give it a rest for a minute, such that when you bring in that mad stereo spread, people are like, oh, it's a thing. And I was just like, oh, I think like a guitar player. And so thinking like a producer begins to go, am I just painting with the same brush over and over? And here's the thing. If that is what your current setup or your current strategy or just kind of how you do things is, no shame. I live there. Not that, of course, that justifies it. The point being is I totally feel you, right? But at the same time, then going, okay, what am I listening for? So as I'm listening for the pulse, I'm thinking of a couple of things. A producer, quite often, the band that comes to mind is a band called, I'm going to date myself here, but just kind of off the cuff, Smash Mouth. And there's a guy named Eric Valentine that produced them and Slash the Snake, but I'm going rock on you, I apologize. But also had a band called Triad and produced one of the Joe Satriani records. I mean, he is a brilliant producer. And so it's not like he produced the same record over and over. He also produced, I think he produced some tracks on that Giant Third Eye Blind record. I mean, he's just amazing. So the point being is a producer can kind of go, hey, I'm going to do the same thing over. But about the Smash Mouth thing, I can hear Eric Valentine's genius of bringing the best out of that band and ending up with, what was it? Astra Lounge, I think was that Smash record, right? I mean, just like, a little, the organ-y stuff. You're just like Farfisa or whatever it was. And you're just like, and just like, the way he was working with the reverbs on the guitars and just, everything about what he did, he just kind of went, I get this band. I get what this moment can be. He didn't take that in with Slash. He didn't take that into to Joe Satriani. He understood where he was in that moment. And a producer kind of goes, this is where I am in this moment. These are the things that are in my blind spots that I need to understand. And I will come back and hopefully give a couple practical examples of that in the framework of some of these other points. But the producer also goes, this is the group of musicians that I've got. The point being is after you take the temperature of the piece of music, dynamically, harmonically, then you want to take the temperature of your own musicality and your ability to what you're going to do with that. Are you going to follow it, as a roadmap? Nothing wrong with that. Are you going to then go, okay, well, here's the map of the song. I'm going to go here and go here and go here. And again, the great thing about a producer is they don't just kind of go, here's the chord, here's the next chord, here's the chord. They don't think like that. They think about the bigger picture, which as a guitar player, I have a tendency at least, kind of go, let me get the chart, let me learn my part. And I'm just kind of going from the front end of the song to the back end of the song is where a huge amount of my energy goes because I just want to make sure I can get from the front to the back. Logical. But a producer is going to be like, yeah, but you want to do a little bit of this and then a little bit of this and then a little bit of this, such that by the time the listener / worshiper gets from the beginning of the worship song or the praise and worship song, by the time they get to the end, it doesn't just feel like we buzz along. And again, I will say one of the things about the way we rehearse is we have a tendency to just kind of like, let's just get through the song. Great, let's maybe do some tops and tails. Let's get to the next song. So it means that we want to be really mindful of like, how does our team actually play? And how can I then zig and zag in a way that's not distracting, but is actually allowing the again, if you think about the pulse and again, blood and breathing. So how can I help the song breathe even if the band plays it like if you're my age, there was a period of time you knew every band of all your buddies, they would do Train Kept a Rolling at least once in the set. Been a minute, my apologies, but the point being is that you would have, like that was kind of like it was in the repertoire, but it's like and basically everybody played it more or less the same. So like the train keeps rolling, and that's great because there is an expectation of how a song's supposed to be playing. But the idea is that if it just kind of feels like any other band could have played it, we can kind of figure out where we're going to zig and where we're going to zag and how we can do that, right? Or at least begin to think about that, engage that conversation. So what does that look like? It goes, okay, where can I have less and more? Less gain, more gain. Less effects, more effects, such that when it goes to the pre-chorus, or it goes to the chorus, or it goes to the bridge, or it drops down at the bridge, I'm actually embellishing the arrangement because ultimately the song is the arrangement. A producer is crafting that arrangement. Again, Smash Mouth, all those cool little things are about the arrangement of the song. It's not just the song, that's important, but the arrangement thereof is really where the producer is just kind of whittling away, making sure something's not too long or too short, and just kind of going, okay, there it is, and making all those things fit. All right. 90s, I love it. Come on, thanks, Deanne. All right. There we go. Jim, hey, listening like a producer is a fantastic tip. You know all about that. First of all, good morning, sir. All right, let me not jump into the chat yet because I will again the Focus Fox. I'm attempting to be good, Doug. All right, moving down the line here. Own your time. Okay. Look at that, Jim's. Hold on, I've got Jim in there still. Hang on a second. Jam, I love you dearly, but I got to get rid of your. There we go. And that's probably in all these scenes. Any case, all right. So, owning your time. All right. So a lot of us play with a click, but I want to unpack this a little bit. There are a couple of distinctions when it comes to really understanding time. Like if I asked you what the notes in a G major 7 A minor 7, B minor 7, C major 7, D dominant 7, E minor 7, and an F sharp minor 7 flat 5 were, would you be able to go G, B, D, F sharp, A, C, E, G, B, D, F sharp, A, C, E, G, B, D, F sharp, A, C, E, G, B, D, and F sharp, A, C, E, and G, B, D, F sharp. That kind of knowledge of chords of these guys. Oops, sorry. Got to get that minor 7 at the 6th there. The point being is that G, B, D, F sharp, A, C, E, G, so on and so forth. Making sure I'm paying attention here. That kind of understanding that if I'm going, that is, see if I can call this out. G, B, D, G, B, G, D, G, F sharp, G, B, D, G, 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 B, G, D, G, F sharp, G, B, D, G, B, G, D, G, F sharp, G, B, D, G, B, G, D, G, F sharp, G, B, G, D, G, F sharp. That sort of inside with your note names is what I'm talking about, but with rhythm. That means that my favorite one is 1E and a 2E and a 3E. That's the second 16th note of 3. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E. If you don't know how to count your way there, it's one of those 3, 4. You can feel it, but for most of us, it's actually like, I remember being on the platform with a, how do I say it, a very non-ethnic group of musicians playing some Israel Houghton stuff. And it was just really interesting to see how people approached 16th note playing, and not just like, you're not just going 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a, right? It's, there's some grease on those notes, and that includes rhythmically. So the point being is that in the same way of knowing, for example, the notes in a chord, how are we with our time? And that means being aware of what the subdivisions are. If you're having a hard time kind of playing a particular stab, or you're trying to go, where is that note in the measure that's kind of that thing in the arpeggio that I'm playing, so I know where to line it up. If you don't have the ability to subdivide the measure in quarter notes, so that is to say, most of what we do is in 4/4 time, so that's going to be our example here. Basically taking one measure and have basically a 4-segment grid. Eighth notes having an 8-segment grid, and 16th notes having a 16th note segment grid, such that on quarter notes it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 16th notes, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and an 8th note triplets, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. So ideally I should have gone quarters, eighths, 8th note triplets, and 16th notes in terms of logical shortening those puppies down. But I decided to subdivide by 2 first. That is, say, quarters to eighths to sixteenths. And largely in worship, most of what we do is thinking along quarters, eighths, and sixteenths. So if you begin to go, okay, I've got a grid that at the quarter note level is basically 4 little partitions. Eighth note is 8 partitions. If I get used to going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a... So for example, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a... So the idea is you not only have to be able to know where they are and kind of going, and that's what I call kick the can, by the way, you're just kind of going one subdivision later in each measure, but one of the things, actually, I'm going to come back to that little teaching topic in a moment. But the idea of being able to track in your head which subdivision you're on, and then actually, by the time the whole measure comes around, nailing that subdivision. Literally, you can just start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's just a great place to start, so you're getting used to doing it. The other thing I would suggest doing is calling your measure numbers, because most of the music we play, and this is, I'll call organizational time, which is the idea of because let's say there's some little stab that happens in measure 2 and measure number 4. If we can't count measure 2 and measure number 4, our probability of hitting that goes lower and lower the further we go through that cycle of 4 measures. And generally speaking, Western music happens in cycles of 4 measures. So if you can kind of track 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. And let's see if I can actually do this. In measure 1, I'm going to hit the downbeat of 1. In measure 2, I'm going to hit the downbeat of 2. Measure 3, downbeat of 3. Measure 4, the downbeat of 4. Such that I'm counting measures 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4 would be a great thing to practice. So again, that's calling out 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4 for each successive measure. And then just in measure 1, hitting the downbeat of 1, 2, 3, 4. In measure 2, 2, 2, 3, 4. In measure 3, 3, 2, 3, 4. And measure 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. The other thing that happens if you keep looping that, at the end of measure 4, you're going to go 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and it's going to flip back around, and that 1's going to be the next quarter note. So if you do that with quarters and eighths and 16th notes, it's going to really help you get used to, and it is a little weird at first to kind of be going, and I'm not going to suggest initially you start off, if you go to the 16th notes, calling the measures initially. I'd suggest initially going 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a, but at the point that you start counting measures, it's and playing and keeping this going and mouthing it, which is actually a huge help. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 2E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E, 3E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 4E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. It just helps you kind of know where you are, and it's a great way, even if you're just kind of like, okay, we get to this part in the song, this is where I miss that 16th note or that 8th note stab. And also sometimes what I'll do is I'll make a little note. Like sometimes the stab won't fall in the same place. What was I listening to? I was listening to a little Night Ranger, and as they kind of, after the intro, they come back on this little stabs. The very first time after they kind of start going they actually hit a single stab. So the idea is like, where is that little sucker? So you have to have some sort of methodology going, like it goes on for about this long and then they hit 1. So the idea is that's analogous of any type of stab that we would potentially want to play, or at least kind of go, oh, where are they doing that? And again, this gets back to the thinking like a producer. I am constantly looking for little things. In the back of my mind, I'm like, Brad Gillis is somebody I've had the privilege of getting to know. He actually played on my last record, did a solo, came over to my house here, sat down, and he's this brilliant guy. Like, Brad was Mr. Whammy Bar long before Mr. Steve Vai was Mr. Whammy Bar. And I got a chance to watch Brad just express himself freeform with the Whammy Bar and play stuff. He listened to the track. It's like, okay, hit record, and just kind of went to town. I'm like, and he just played all this stuff, including Whammy Bar, but he had this whole shtick, and he just kind of went to town with it. So this is where creative listening listening like a producer and owning your time all overlap. And I was listening to some Joe Satriani as well, and this is a little bit of a left turn, but a valuable one, is that there are things that Joe does that are specific legato licks. He doesn't just do an Alan Holdsworth thing where 5 minutes later you've heard legato at every far reach and crevice of the neck with a million fingerings that I'll never be able to play, but I love and loved Alan Holdsworth. But what Joe does is he has some signature legato-like licks that they're crafted, their signature, but yet they're not, oh, Joe's playing the same lick again. It's a fine line between repetition and style. And the point being is as you're working with the time, knowing where things are in the time. The other thing what was I listening to? There's a song by, what's his name? It's called Smile. And he's a Nashville guy. I'm going to forget his name for the moment. But it's got this really funky thing that I'm like, oh, this guy listens to Prince. But there was a period of time that I endeavored to learn his rhythm part because I want to know what he's doing. And it's not just that it happens on the subdivisions. It's the way he's just kind of leaning back in the time. And I'm like, oh, wow. And so that is to say, of all this grid stuff that we're talking about, the grid's here, and then you're gently relaxing exactly the exact amount to offset that grid. That is owning your time. So that kind of gets us there. All right. I do want to take questions, and I'll be happy to backtrack. But moving forward, the kissing cousin of owning your time. Jam, I still want to take that bait. And I'm, in any case, and I can't, yes, I love Brad too. So I'm seeing these little comments. All right. So own the notes. Let's see if I can find this little magical slide here. Where are you? Where are you, Mr. Overlay? Come on. Where is that? And come on. Sorry, folks. This one was one that I knew I'd had in there from... There we go. No, I had it in there from this weekend teaching. And it's just gone. It must not have been on this scene. Okay. No, but it should still be in my overlay. Sorry. This is called overall lame preparedness. All right. Logo overlay. All right. I'm going to have to get to it elsewhere. I actually have it. I have the PDF up in the background. So I'll have to get to it there. Okay. The world won't end. So let me grab the PDF here real quick and I'll bring it in. There it is. Good. Okay, let's do this. And we're going to go here. And in so doing, unlock the scene, Mr. Doppler. The scene is unlocked. And now let's get to the right window. That's Loopback, by the way, in the background. And I'm looking for Adobe Acrobat. There we go. Look at those big, beautiful notes. Okay, so let's see. Dare I grab this and drag it? No. All right, I can expand this a little bit. There we go. See if I can do a little bit of that. Hopefully that's not pulling that out of your viewable area. Okay. Okay, all right, so I'm slightly bummed because the graphic that I wanted to pull up actually has something that I actually want to have. You know what? This will work. Okay, so as you look at C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C there, you can obviously see that there's a black key in between C and D, one between D and E, none between E and F, a black key in between F and G, another one between G and A, and another one between A and B, and none between B and C. So as you think about this, you basically, first of all, the key of C is the basis of all of this good stuff. Gil Rock Ranch, you're distracting me. Keep doing that. You will pry me from my focus, and I dare you. How about that? Thank you, Chris. I love Gillis, and yeah, and I love the cover of that as well. There you go. So as you look at C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, C hold the D, hold the E, half to F, hold the G, hold the A, hold the B, half to C. So I am a big believer, and there's an exercise in that PDF, and I'll see if I can procure a link for you guys to be able to download that. But the ability to go E, half to F, hold the G, hold the A, hold the B, half to C, hold the D, hold the E, half to F, hold the G, hold the A, hold the B, half to C, hold the D, hold the C, half to B, hold the A, hold the G, hold the F, half to E, hold the D, hold the C, half to B, hold the A, hold the G, hold the F, half to E. The idea of being able to play the note and call it out at the same time means that you, if not know the notes, know how to find the notes. And that's a really, really, really important thing. One of the other things that I think is a big mystery for somebody out there, and they're just too embarrassed to ask. So let me answer this question for you to begin with. When do I use a flat and when do I use a sharp? So the simple answer is that we want to kind of keep this. If you take a look at C to D to E to F to G to A to B to C, you're going to actually see that the order there, because of the presence or absence thereof of the black keys, basically goes C to D, that's one whole step. D to E is the second whole step. E to F is a half step. So you got 2 wholes and a half. And then effectively, as you go from F to G with a black key, G to A with a black key, A to B with a black key, and then B to C without, is 3 holes and a half. So collectively, it's 2 holes and a half, 3 holes and a half. So if I were to start up the D major scale, the first whole step would be from D to E, and the second whole step would be from E to, the next note name would be F sharp. It would not make sense to go D, hold to E, hold to G flat. It would make sense to go D, hold to E, hold to F sharp. And that's why you're going to use that. So basically, it's just effectively place holding for note names. Sorry, it's not any more complicated than that. All right, so here's the thing is that where does this matter and what's the practical part of this? Because, all right, on one hand, it's very obvious to see why knowing the rhythms makes a lot of sense. If for no other reasons, like I don't ever want to miss that stab or not be able to know where in a particular measure something's actually happening. Knowing the note names is a little bit less obvious for us worship folks, or is it? Because if you were to take this concept of where the triads that are the bases of the chords that we play come from, and if you basically took a look at C, E, and G, and D, F, A, and E, G, B, and F, A, C, and G, B, D, and A, C, E, and let me shrink this down, and B, D, F, and C, E, G, that gets us to this kind of, if you will, every other white key thing. Now, the guitar is best expressed in the key of G major as opposed to C major. So part of this note name thing, that's why I also wanted to unpack this. When you use a black key as a sharp or flat, it's this alphanumeric relationship that if C is my first note, some sort of D is going to be my second note, and so some sort of E is going to be my third note. It's that simple. The thing about the guitar is that because of the open strings, which would include notes from the key of C major, however, kind of start C at the bottom of the neck, you're starting off on the 5th string, which kind of in some ways orphans the 6th string. So if you're looking for a key that starts at the bottom of the neck, even on an instrument like this, although your average acoustic, you may not get much further than the 12th fret, but more and more of them kind of have this extended range. The idea is if you're looking for a key that starts at the bottom of the neck, key of F has B flat, so that open B string is going to be a nightmare. Key of A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp. Oh, there we go. The G sharp, that, again, now that may be appealing to some, but for me it's not. And I can assure you if you're kind of like doing the congregation is going to the hands are going to come down and maybe throw something in their pocket at you. Hopefully not. But the point being is that the key of A is not much more friendly because, again, you've got that open G string as opposed to a G sharp. The key of G major is kind of perfect. You have all the open strings. And, again, it kind of goes from the bottom of the neck to the top of the neck. So if we were to kind of craft this whole thing that we took from the key of C and then transposed to the key of G, and I'm going to show you a little trick here, and I'm going to make sure hopefully I don't lose anybody. On the guitar, if you want to move a whole step, you move 2 frets. So this whole concept that we took from the piano for the key of C, which is where I'm at, is 2 whole steps and a half, 3 whole steps and a half is the pattern of the major scale. You can just hear that. And that is C, hold to D, hold to E, half to F, hold to G, hold to A, hold to B, half to C, which we can also think of as 1, hold to 2, hold to 3, half to 4, hold to 5, hold to 6, hold to 7, half to 1, which means then we can since it's relative as opposed to absolute, that is to say, C, hold the D, hold the E, have to F. That's the key of C major if I keep going along doing that. But when I think of this as 1, hold a 2, hold a 3, have to 4, hold a 5, hold a 6, hold a 7, have to 1, 1, have to 7, hold a 6, hold a 5, hold a 4, have to 3, hold a 2, hold a 1, I can then move that down to this string and go 1, hold a 2, hold a 3, have to 4, hold a 5, hold a 6, hold a 7, have to 1, 1, have to 7, hold a 6, hold a 5, hold a 4, have to 3, hold a 2, hold a 1. And I've now transposed to the key of G major. G, hold a A, hold a B, have to C, hold a D, hold a E. The next note's got to be some sort of, that's right, F. But from E to F is a half step, and we need to move a whole step there because, again, it was 2 wholes and a half, and then 1, 2, 3 wholes and a half. So we were right there. We were at E. We needed to move a whole step. That's why it goes from E to F sharp to G. So notes of G major are G, hold A, hold a B, half to C, hold a D, hold a E, hold a F sharp, half to G. G, half to F sharp, hold a E, hold a D, hold a C, half to B, hold a A, hold a G. So in the Steve Vai world of things, this chord right here would not be out of tune. But basically, Steve likes to look at these things. And this is, by the way, going to be important. So bear with me if you're kind of going, where is this guy going exactly? Culprit has been found. There we go. So he would look at this G, B, and D kind of climbing up, going major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, major. And that's basically doing that same thing where I took every other white key for the key C major and went C, E, G, D, F, A, E, G, B, F, A, C, G, B, D, A, C, E, B, D, F, C, E, G. And by the way, owning the notes, once you understand that those, what I call those as triad note groups, is basically every other note named. So just like we saw in the key of C, it's always C, skip D, go to E, skip F, go to G. So that triad of, sorry for, that triad looks like an obscene gesture, so my apologies. It's basically, if you're starting at C, whether it's a C major, minor, or diminished triad, is always going to be some sort of C note, some sort of E note, and some sort of G note. So once you get comfortable with that, for example, this GBD is G major. G, B flat, D, where I took the B and lowered a half step, is minor. And G, B flat, D flat is diminished. But it's still 1, 3, 5, 1 flat, 3, 5, 1 flat, 3 flat, 5, G, B, D, G, B flat, D, and G, B flat, D flat. But those triad note groups are consistent. So if you can memorize those, C, E, G, D, F, A, E, G, B, F, A, C, G, B, D, A, C, E, B, D, F, C, E, G, C, E, G, B, D, F, A, C, E, G, B, D, F, C, E, G, B, D, F, A, C, E, G. That's the food groups, in this case, G, B, D, A, C, E, B, D, F sharp, C, E, G, D, F sharp, A, E, G, B, F sharp, A, C, G, B, D. And if I want to go, instead of going G, B, D, I want to go G, B, E. And instead of going A, C, E, I want to add the next note in the key. That's going to be F sharp. And that's B, D, F sharp, B, D, G, B, D, A. And this one's fun to play. I realize my intonation is a little bit out there. So the point being is that this G, B, D, A, C, E, B, D, F sharp, C, E, G, D, F sharp, A, E, G, B, F sharp, A, C, G, B, D is just what we did at the piano, where we basically took every other note name, but every time we get to an F note, because the key of G major goes G, hold the A, hold the B, half to C, hold the D, hold the E, hold the F sharp, we have to use an F sharp instead of an F. So that first one here, G, skip A, go to B, skip C, go to D, G, B, D. And then we just go up to the next note in the key, and that gives us A, C, and E. And that in turn, B, D, F sharp, C, E, G, D, F sharp, A, E, G, B, F sharp, A, C, and G, B, D. And again, the ability terribly played, but and I'm still a little out of tune. So let's see if we can't solve some of these problems simultaneously. But the idea is we're trying to find one of the biggest advantages of knowing the note names is being able to go, okay, first of all, I have to dig up a guitar pick here because obviously the finger picking thing ain't happening tonight. There we go. Knowing the note names is you can then kind of go, okay, and I'm basically going, instead of going, now this guy was G, B, D, but this is, it's just the still, if this is G, B, D, and I take this finger away, it's still B and D, and then I added, instead of B, I added C, kept the D in the same, and then that's that G on the high E string. And that note right there is the F sharp. The other thing is you begin to think about this as G, A, B, and 1, 2, 3. The G is the 1 chord. The B is the 3 chord. The C is the 4 chord. 1, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 3, 2, 5. And you can just begin to get comfortable with where things are going on. This is where owning the note names becomes valuable. The note names and the scale degree numbers that they're functioning as are interchangeable, which is why I've been interchanging them. And the ability to kind of do both simultaneously is the thing. So as a little bit of a pause button there, what I've been running my students through, because I teach on Saturday, and I'm not trying to recruit, one of the things that I'm really getting people used to doing, and we talked about this a little bit here, is the idea of the note names are an absolute expression. In this case of the C, hold the D, hold the E, half to F, hold the G, hold the A, hold the B, half to C, of the major scale, but played at C. At the point that you go C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, that is the C major scale. But at the point you go 1, hold a 2, hold a 3, half to 4, hold a 5, hold a 6, hold a 7, half to 1, I very purposely gave you that as I was kind of going through this to go, hey, I just can move that down a string and go 1, hold a 2, hold a 3, half to 4, hold a 5, hold a 6, hold a 7, half to 1. If I can find this first note, then I go, all right, G, hold a A, hold a B, half to C, hold a D, hold a E, hold a F sharp, half to G. One of the things you're hearing me do is when I'm playing the note name, I'm calling out either the number or the note name. Or I should say when I'm playing the note G, hold the A, hold the B, half to C, such that at some point when I go, my brain goes G, A, B, C without my having to go G, hold the A, hold the B, half to C. The other thing about calling the whole step or the half step, it means that I understand why this is G and A. Because I'm going from the 1, hold the 2, hold the 3, half to 4, hold the 5, hold the 6, hold the 7, half to 1, started here. So that means it's going to be G, hold A, hold the B, half to C, hold the D. So the idea is that I understand at the scalar level. And then I start basically playing up this string, going G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. And this string going B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B. And this string going D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D. And you can think of that as G, hold the A, hold the B, half to C, hold the D, hold the E, hold the F sharp, half to G. And we're still in the key of G major, so it's going to be B, half to C, hold the D, hold the E, hold F sharp, half to G, hold A, hold the B. That's the octave of where we started there. And this is D, hold the E, hold the F sharp, half to G, hold the A, hold the B, half to C, hold the D. And that's why Mr. Vi would refer to these as chord scales, which is a very legitimate and probably for many of you a much better way of seeing this than the way I have a tendency to see it. And I would say I would group Mr. Satriani in there, which is like, hey, if I take this G major scale, instead of playing it up the neck like this, I play it laterally across the neck like this. That's G major, and if I start off the second note of that G major scale with the same 7 notes, so instead of going G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, I go A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A. That's the A Dorian mode. And wait for it, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B is the B Phrygian mode, which is another way of saying starting some major scale off of its third note is what Phrygian is, because that's what it is. But in the classic sense, And there, literally, I'm just ripping off that Triad there. And I was listening to some Dream Theater, so of course, we every Sunday morning we got to have a little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I did 7 and 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, this is where this counting and knowing what you're doing helps, because then you kind of go, well, at least if I play it right, I know what it was that I did. If I play it wrong, I know what I needed to fix. The point being able to then, by the way, if you start off the C note, G, A, B, C, that's the fourth mode Lydian. C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C. Somebody's like, head blown. D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D is D mixed Lydian. E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D. E is E minor. I describe it as minor as opposed to Aeolian, because have you ever played an Aeolian chord? No. Have you played an E minor chord? Yes, so minor. And I asked Joe about it one day. I said, why did you choose to say it? Because we are going Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, mixed Lydian, and Locrian. Why did you choose to call it major and minor as opposed to Ionian and Aeolian, respectively? And he said it would be less confusing for guitar players. That was it. It was like, Joe has the ability to just break it down very simple, like bite-sized pieces for guitar players. And I was like, there it is. That's what I figured. But now the other part of this, and this is important because when it comes to the note names, where does it come from? So that's why we started over at the keyboard. The other diagram that for whatever reason is jettisoned into the universe, it not only has the note name, but right above the note name, it has the number. So you can actually like C1, D2, E3. But the reality is the goal here, and this is what I'm walking my students through, is the music that we play started on the piano in terms of the way we think about music theory. So the ability to take it off the piano, and I'm having my students do a series of small written exercises where they basically take the numbers and the note names and they write them down on a piece of paper, and they basically go 1, hold a 2, hold a 3, half to 4, hold a 5, hold a 6, hold a 7, half to 1. And then they go, for example, C, hold a D, hold a E, half to F, hold a G, hold a A, hold a B, half to C. And then they go 1, hold a 2, half to 3. So 1, hold a 2, hold a 3, hold a 4. 1, hold a 2, hold a 3, half to 4. And then they go, what I'm actually doing, and I will prescribe this to you if you're so willing, is basically, what are the keys that in theory we should probably get to know? Well, we do play this thing called guitar, and it does have 6 strings, and 5 of them are uniquely named E, A, D, G, B. So it would make sense to probably be able to go right across 1, hold a 2. And by the way, in the Satriani world, the symbol for whole step was a little circle. And some people just use a W and an H, whole and half respectively, which works fine. Joe used a little circle for whole step and a plus for half step. So basically, I'm having people write basically 1, circle 2, circle 3, plus 4, circle 5, circle 6, circle 7, plus 1. And then basically, then immediately below that, they go E, circle F sharp, circle G sharp, plus A, circle B, circle C sharp, circle D sharp, plus E. And that basically allows us to then be thinking, and then I have them, once it's written on the page there, read that as if that were written music and basically going 1, hold a 2, hold a 3, half to 4, hold a 5, hold a 6, hold a 7, half to 1. 1, half to 7, hold a 6, hold a 5, hold a 4, half to 3, hold a 2, hold a 1. E, hold the F sharp, hold the G sharp, half to A, hold the B, hold the C sharp, hold the G sharp, half to E. E, half to D sharp, hold the C sharp, hold the B, hold the A, half to G sharp, hold the F sharp, hold the E. And I've gotten relatively good at doing this, but more importantly, the valuable thing that's happening is that information that started on the piano, that we then committed to paper, or in this case, virtual paper, then we use that virtual paper as the pathway into the brain. It's a little bit different than your average college music theory class, because they're really like, you're going to have some time with the piano, and it's like all the kind of functionality and dysfunctionality of the piano. So I asked one of my students this, and I'm going somewhere valuable here, hopefully. I asked one of my students, because I came to this revelation, I believe, that like music notation to piano players is what tab is to guitar players, when tab actually has the the rhythmic notation on it. And I know some people will like cringe, like, oh my word, where's he going? Why would he possibly say this? Well, the interesting thing, and I checked this with a guy that's one of my students, Brad Jensen, who's been with me for a long time, very smart guy, doctor for a living, very studied. And I said, this is my hunch. Can you verify if I'm actually thinking the right thing? And I said, basically, the key signatures, because here's the deal. If I go to play the key of G major, and A major, and B major, I just move the same fingering up and down. So in a sense, we want to know this is G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, and A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, and A, so on and so forth. But the key signature that is not necessarily like the concept of like, we're going to memorize this key signature because that's what you do in classical music. I was like, well, no, that's actually what piano players do in classical music. I'm much more interested in playing Freebird, which, by the way, was one of the things that I listened to on the ride back, and I probably listened to it louder than I should have. But the point being is we have this is our gateway in, and this is the problem for guitar players, is most of the time we don't have a secondary pathway from piano, written information, knowledge, splay it out on the piano, which is why this little piece here is so important, because it gives us an on-ramp that Freebird does not. Nothing wrong with the Freebird journey. I'm all in. All in. That's the all chips thing. We, of course, don't gamble as... just leave that. That's me flushing the toilet or something like that. The point being is that there's nothing wrong with Freebird experience. It's uniquely part of what makes the guitar, just in the same way the key signatures are for the piano players. But what they really are telling the piano players, hit this black key in this key. So that is to say the key of G major is saying, hey, instead of hitting the white key F, you need to hit that black key. It's really basically, when I said tablature for piano players, what I meant is, it's making like, hey, dummy, you got to hit this black key instead of the natural key. And literally they can look at the key signatures saying, oh, this is the black key I have to hit instead of the white key. I mean, it's in many ways is, yes, we want to understand what the notes are in the key, but it's really kind of like notes for dummies for piano players. That's a little oversimplified, but when you really think about it, that information, again, is specifically, given how keyboard-centric it is, it makes it so the piano players goes, right, instead of an F, I have to hit that F sharp. I have to hit that black key, the one just above F. All right. The point being is that does not relieve us of the responsibility of having to understand how to go A, hold a B, hold a C sharp, half to D. But in so doing, you and I have this shared knowledge that A, hold a B, hold a C sharp, half to D, hold a E, hold a F sharp, hold a G sharp, half to A. All of a sudden we go like, wait a second. A, hold a B, hold a C sharp, half to D, hold a E, hold a F sharp, hold a G sharp, half to A. And I'm like, wait a second. I not only know what the notes are of this A major scale are, but I actually know why it's A, hold a B, hold a C sharp, half to D, hold a E, hold a F sharp, hold a G sharp, half to A, hold a B, hold a C sharp, hold a D. And all of a sudden you're like, how the heck did that happen? It's because we had a process to grab it from the piano, which is the source, splay it out in terms of the numbers, then the note names, and then bring that back over to the guitar. And that means that we're grounded in, again, owning the note names. So again, then getting back to Mr. Satriani, if you take this first, third, and fifth note of each of these modes, sorry, I was a little F-y on my F sharp there, you end up with G, B, D, A, C, E, B, D, F sharp, C, E, G, D, F sharp, A, E, G, B, F sharp, A, C, G, B, D, which in turn becomes G, B, D, A, C, E, B, D, F sharp, C, E, G, D, F sharp, A, E, G, B, F sharp, A, C, G, B, D, which collectively is major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, major, major, diminished, minor, major, major, minor, minor, major, which you can also think of as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, which means somebody right about now is thinking, wait a second, okay, I get that, but when you go up to the 2 chord, is it the 2 chord or does it become the 1 minor? It becomes the 2 chord where I come from. Because it's the 2nd chord, like in this order. Like, so the whole point is the piano goes back to the major scale. That's where all the kind of it starts from. So if I'm going to start off the chord based on the 2nd note of the major scale, I'm going to think of it as, wait for it, 2. So if it's the tonal center, it's still based on the mode, based on the 2nd note of the major scale, which means it's still 2. Now, here's the other piece of this. If you can think of these as 7 pods on a vine, and we're hanging out at that 2nd pea pod. When you open that pea pod open, and I take this guy, and I compare it to the major scale started at the same root, or conversely, I think of its relative major scale, that is to say, G major, and I took this A Dorian mode, and I dragged it down to G. This is how I can go, oh, well, major goes major, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Again, with a footnote back to Freebird, looking at the shape of Dorian 2, third note of the major scale was there. Third note of the Dorian mode is there. That is a flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7. Seventh note of the major scale is there. Flat 7, 1. Dorian 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 1. Phrygian flat 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1. Lydian 2, 3. Fourth note of the major scale is there. Sharp 4. Again, how do you know when you need to go sharp or flat? Lydian 2, 3. The next note's got to be some sort of 4. Fourth note of the major scale is there. We're a half step higher, so that needs to be a sharp 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Mixed Lydian 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 1. Minor 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, 1. Locrian flat 2, flat 3, 4, flat 5, flat 6, flat 7, 1. And these triads are taking the 1, 3, 5 of major. 1 flat 3, 5 of Dorian, 1 flat 3, 5 of Phrygian, 1, 3, 5 of Lydian, 1, 3, 5 of mixed Lydian, 1 flat 3, 5 of minor, and 1 flat 3, flat 5 of Locrian. And that's where those formulas come from, by overlaying them on top of the major scale. That also has another basis, which is in classical ear training. And so this is one of the reasons, as I sat down with Mr. Satriani when I was 15 years old, is that I organically understood a lot of what he was doing, because this is going to be very strange. Sonically, we're thinking a lot of the same things. So if he heard, he would think 1, flat 2, flat 7, 1, flat 2, flat 7, 1. And I would essentially, because of the classical ear training I got as a little tyke in the San Francisco Boys Chorus, where 1, 2, 3, and if this is the 3, a half step below that is a 1, 3. We would have called that a minor third as a dyad, but and modalization, I would think that is 1, 3, 1, flat 3. It doesn't become a minor third until it's either played as an interval or as a dyad on its own. That is to say, major third, minor third, major third, minor third, but natural 3, flat 3. Subtle but important, because when I'm referring to an individual scale degree number, it's not an interval. An interval is defined as the distance between two notes. At that point, we're just looking at one note and how it's functioning in the key. That is to say, if I play the C major scale, C, hold a D, hold the E, half to F, hold a G, hold A, hold a B, half to C. The second note of the C major scale, which is D, C, hold a D, is functioning as the 2. Third note, wait for it, is functioning as the 3. That's just an individual note. Now, when I think about that E, it becomes an E minor triad, so that's going to be kind of it's the 3 chord at that point. And so the great thing about this whole thing, and a minute ago I talked about this concept of there's the relative side of things as you look at the numbers, and then there's the absolute when you express it in a particular key. That is to say, when I go G major, A minor, B minor, C major, D major, E minor, F sharp diminished, and G major, by the time I'm done doing that, that can only be the key of G major, just in the same way if I go F major, G minor, A minor, B flat major, C major, D minor, F diminished, G major, that can only be the key of F major. But if I think about it as 1, 2, 3, 4, I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, or I can go 1, 2, 3, 4. I can do it anywhere on there, because I understand that when I think about the relative relationship, if you will, you took the flesh off the bones, you just ran with the skeleton. It's like, it's this far from this bone to this one. Then you just, this is as to say a whole step, half step. Then you can take that with you anywhere. And that sort of pliability about owning the notes really opens things up. So I made one last analogy that I didn't come back and finish. At the point that you begin to understand that the major scale is thought of both in terms of names and numbers, if I think about this as G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G, and I think about this as being G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, that becomes G, D, G, B, D, and G, respectively. And if we unscramble that, that's really a bunch of G's, 1 B, and 2 D's. And if we unscrambled that, that would really just be G, B, D, which if we look at this as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, is just the 1, 3, and 5, which means this chord is really going where it's going G, G, G. Those are 1s. That B is the 3. And these D's are the 5, which really means this chord is voiced 1, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1. And this chord is voiced 1, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1. Somebody's mind is blown. I love this. 1, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1. And 1, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1. So if we think about the key of C major, what's the 1? C. What's the 3? C, D, E. What's the 5? C, D, E, F, G. So the 1, sorry, folks. 1, 3, and 5. Hold on, I can do it like 1, 3, and 5. That's a lot more civilized. Are C, E, and G respectively. So if this is 1, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1, that really means this is C, G, C, E, G, C. Because I know this is 1, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1. That hasn't changed since it was 1, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1. There. So I know if I know C, E, and G are the 1, 3, and 5, then I just go everywhere there's a 1, that's a C. And everywhere there's a 3, that becomes the B. And everywhere there's a 5, that's the D. So that means it's C, G, C, E, G, D. And this is E, B, E, G sharp, B, and E. Mind blown, right? But all it is kind of, if you will, taking the producer's perspective, but more of the professor's perspective of looking at the chords and kind of going, well, okay, we can play the chords in a common key, but let's actually understand why they are what they are. Okay. My mind doesn't process like that. Hold on a second. So I'm going to pause this thing here. Brad, this is just for you. Again, dropping pick, and I'm going to need that sucker. If we just agree that the key of G major is G, hold the A, hold the B, half to C, hold the D, hold the E, hold the F sharp, half to G. There, those notes are played like that. And if instead of starting at G and going G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, I take those same notes but start them off the second note and go A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A. And I hope I did say F sharp there in case I said F. But the difference between starting at G is G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. Then we're starting on the same notes but starting at A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A. And so that is just kind of what the modes are about. You're literally just taking the major scale and you're starting off of the next note and the next note and the next note. And every single one of those scales has a first note, a second note, third note, fourth note, fifth note, sixth note, and the seventh note. And the most important notes, arguably, from each of these modes is the first, third, and fifth notes. And that's where these chords come from. And I'm not dumbing it down. I'm actually just going, let's just kind of zoom in on the important simple bits and pieces. We can take it out and extrapolate, which is where it gets fun. But there are a couple of other pieces involved in this. And I see, awesome, Deanne. Way to go. Done. Awesome. So the whole thing is that it's kind of like learning to speak French. You got to understand the nouns and the verbs and the conjugation. And not everybody walks into the French class the first day and can go, Parlez-vous français? Très bien. That's the French that I learned in kindergarten. And my French has not really improved much since then. But Parlez-vous français? Très bien. Merci. Au revoir. My language is limited, but that's the equivalent of going major, minor, dominant 7. And, so I have... And all it is once you study a little bit more, then you just get a little bit deeper. It's that simple. Okay, let me get to the last two things here because these are important, believe it or not. Playing dynamically, and Jem, I'm going to remove your little URL there. As much as I love you, this is the biggest mistake on a pure playing level that guitar players make over and over and over again. So let me see if I can go through a list of 5 ways, not having a pre-bulleted list, so work with me here, that playing without dynamics really affects everything. 1, when you play at one dynamic level, one of the common things I hear, people like, I didn't like the way that pedal sounded. I'm sorry, I shouldn't do that. But one of the common things that happens, like people, I didn't like this, I didn't like that. Most often, every time I read that, I'm like, first of all, there is the possibility that people just didn't like it. But when it's something I like and I actually go, everybody else seems to like that. So either you hear something different, which is totally legitimate, or you're just, you've picked up an ice pick when you really just want to pick up a guitar pick, right? So the idea is you're just hitting with the same hard volume when you're making that vintage 30. You're hitting it at a particular location on the string, that everything about the guitar you can do to make it as spiky as possible, you were doing that. And guess what? That speaker's reproducing that. So there's the sound side of that, right? There's the music side of it where, and by the sound side, I mean, it's just like, we have to evoke good sounds of an instrument, right? If I play this guitar like an electric guitar all the time, it's not going to sound good. It's not an electric guitar. It's not what it was designed to do. We have to understand what it was designed to do, and sometimes our ear... Here comes. Now, in addition to playing dynamically, inside all of that, where I'm at a general dynamic range, every single one of those notes, it's like any of you spend any time editing drums in the MIDI editor and whatever DAW you might be working in. There are times I'll just go in and I'll randomize the snare, the velocity, that is to say, such that it's, instead of being the instinct is go make all the snares the same volume. Here it's louder, it's softer. Now you just want to go and kind of almost randomly do it, because your average drummer's like, look at the girls. Sorry. Or look at the guys. Just saying, your average mainstream drummer, or they're like, hey, is the bar closed yet? Like, I love drummers, but like, you know, it's true. So the point being is that your average drummer is not like, I'm going to hit that snare exactly in the same location, the exact same dynamic range, so you'll never tell whether it's an actual drummer or it's a sample. And no drummer wants to actually be like that anyway. But the point being is that sometimes we get in the studio, it's like, we want the drums to sit here, then we want to bring it up here. It's actually now you want to go in and actually humanize it, right? So the point being is that in the... But the... And I... So that guy's a little quieter. Versus. I bet somebody out there would like, that's me. Well, the best part about this, you can kind of go, all right, so I guess I just got to figure out, sit on the couch, put on a movie, and just kind of go. And strum some chords, just kind of go, okay, how do I make it have a... And by the way, that's really what we're doing, is we're playing a little drum kit. And it just takes time to just kind of go, oh, wow, how cool is that? Dynamics make a good song great. Right you are. Where is that? There we go. Woohoo! Yes, 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 and yes. And here's the reality, is all of these things I've been. And it's just a matter of like, and part of, you know, kind of going into tonight, it's like, okay, well, how do I deconstruct? Good, I spelled it right. How do I deconstruct some of these things? Because these are very conscious parts of what I'm always trying to do. Because like anybody else, I will use the words deathly afraid. Maybe that's a little extreme, but I am so conscious of not boring people by playing the same shtick, that unless it's in certain genre-based things, I'm always kind of going, how can I change it up without losing the plot? And that's thinking like a producer. How do I, make, Slash's Snake Pit not sound like, Third Eye Blind, or not make Smash Mouth and Third Eye Blind sound like one another? And those were, at the time, there was actually a Bay Area scene out of which Smash Mouth and Third Eye Blind, came, and they were bands that were, doing shows together. They were, they came up together. They shared drummers. They shared producers. Hey. And they were very different bands. And, the great thing about Eric Valentine was, like, he knew he needed to be a different producer in the framework of that. Oh, look at that. Bruce Adolph. Look at that. That is true. Hang on, I'll bring that in there. Bruce Adolph, my publisher at Worship Musician. Hail to the chief. I can't call him boss, but I can call him the chief. That Jazzmaster Acoustic Sonic. I think it's the middle guy here that is the kind of... I'm not plugged in, but yes, it has a body sensor, so you can get more of that stuff in it. So those of you that are loopy, if you want to go loopy there, you can do that. Hello, Bruce. Nice to see you, my friend. We have so much fun at the magazine. You guys have no idea. I mean, we basically laugh and smile the vast majority of the time. And you know what? We're human, and every so often we don't. And then we always like, don't let the sun go down on your anger. I love you. I'm so sorry. And then it's totally cool. The next day, it's just like, we're just having fun. We're really blessed with what we got to do. And hopefully that shows. And we're starting to hit a stride, I think. In the next 6 to 12 months, I'm going to hopefully step into my full responsibility of owning what we need to own on the worship front. The things that I'm learning to do on my mainstream gear demos, bringing that over to the house of worship and serving you, which is a huge responsibility. But just doing something until you kind of have a feeling of how to do it right is you just got to, sometimes you just got to do it, and other times you got to go like, okay, think we got this. And so we're super excited. All right, so playing dynamically, that's pretty straightforward. I think that made sense there. This is another one of the really important ones. And this is chasing inspiration. Or as it says, chase inspiration. It's something that is an active part of my daily endeavor as a musician. I am, sometimes my neighbors must think I'm out of my mind. I loop the same song over and over. But sometimes it's because I'm trying to have some revelation, or just plain makes me feel good. But it's because I'm on somewhere I'm just kind of like, okay, what is it that makes me feel good about the song? And how can I take it? And sometimes it's just, I just enjoy being a listener. So it means that I can just be in pure listening mode without thinking about it. But usually if it's one that I'm is getting to me, eventually I'm going to be like, give me the guitar. It's so funny. I'll just call I'm not going to do that. There's a song that was a big hit, like in the 90s or something. And I've just been listening to that over and over. And it's just kind of like, and I can only go so long. It's like, all right, where's the guitar? I just have to play over the top of this thing. And then turn it into a Doppler jam track. Far from this original goal. All right. The point being is chasing inspiration is doing stuff exactly like that, where I'm going to listen to that so long until finally I'm like, give me a guitar. Like, give me a guitar. Gotta play. And then I'm kind of like, all right, now who is the new guy that I'm going to find out that I get to be playing over this track? And so I'm always looking for some reveal that's my next revelation that I get a chance to really kind of gorge myself on, such that I can get fat in musical inspiration, which means that there's more inspiration surrounding me than I can actually get to. Because I think one of the big challenges players struggle with is feeling inspired. So my easy version of that's like, I don't look to myself for inspiration. Obviously, there's divine inspiration, but the other thing is God created a lot of amazing musicians, so we can kind of look around from left to the right, whether it's in the house of worship or beyond, and kind of go, who is speaking to me musically? Who's feeding me musically? And am I just like, have I excused myself from the table and am not in a mode where I'm like, hey, I need to eat? As a musician, when you're expending musical energy, it's important to kind of go like, where am I getting my calories from? You can't just run on the inspiration tap endlessly, most of us. And for those of us that can, you don't need to be watching this stream. You already kind of know what to do. You just kind of go off and do it. So the idea is that one of the things that I'm this past week, I literally kind of worked, and I'm not saying this, but I'm just kind of like self-analyzing. I worked basically, and I do not recommend doing this, but I worked basically 7 days of 20-hour days working on this first quad cortex video, because it's me. The work is the art. The guitar playing is part of that, but I'm just like having this chance to express myself at all the cylinders. So and so the point being is that in the process of that, I'm watching YouTube videos on editing, transitions. I'm watching Netflix for kind of how people deal with lighting and all these different things that I'm constantly feeding the inner creative with. So that inner creative is nice and fat with inspiration. Generally speaking, I have more things that I want to do than the time and the avenues to express them. And that's a really healthy place to be in as a creative, because you're like, I got more than I need. It's kind of like if you work with graphic design, which is what, one of the things we do at the magazine, most of the time we have less images than we need to have. But when I have more images than I need, it means that we get a chance to choose what we're going to discard, because it's not as good as the stuff that we like. This tells the story. And so the idea of having more than you need to tell the story that you've got to tell in that moment as a creative is a very powerful place to be. Okay, we seem to be pulling... Oh, right. We're getting comments coming in from YouTube, but we're not getting them in from Facebook, because we connect to Facebook with RTMP protocol. So let me get my Facebook feed here at the same time. Hello, Chrome. Okay, good. It's always strange, like going to one of the browsers and kind of seeing yourself 10 seconds ago. It's kind of like, hey, wait, I know that guy, but he's not saying what I'm saying. It's very weird. Okay, all right, there we go. All right, hey, awesome. Okay, there we go. Hello. So I've been kind of semi-replying to YouTube. So give me a moment. I want to hang out with the Facebook peeps. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out. So Brett, again, always a pleasure. And I'm gonna read some of these. I can't bring them in there, but Brett, good point. Most of the time, my ideal tone often doesn't work in the context. Love that word. Of the overall worship band. I have to find a balance of what sounds best for the set and what inspires me to play. And that sometimes is an interesting balance. I love that. Friedman, awesome. Thank you so much. Friedman said he loves this. Awesome. I'm all in. I'm gonna read, and then I'm gonna comment, and then okay, Stephen, first of all, thank you so much. If you go to just worshipmusician.com and then you select any one of the magazines, like the current issue, you will be faced with this subscribe interface thing that will be there. But that gives me a great reminder that I need to, every one of these shows now, put a subscribe link for the channel and for the magazine in the description down below. So note to self, thank you for that. I'm gonna go to the top here and scroll down here. You had another great question there. So I'm gonna just dig in, and here we go. I remember this is Brett. I remember reading in a guitar magazine about Joe Satriani being asked about his tone, and he said he doesn't go for a particular sound that's his as much as what the song is called for. So the interesting thing, it's a, and obviously that kind of would have been right around the time I was talking about that fine line between repetition and style. So this track comes on, and Apple Music was just kind of randomly playing stuff, and it's really interesting. Once then For the Goodness of God came on, and then all of a sudden it's Satriani and Dream Theater, and then Bethel, and then then the next heavy thing, and then Darlene Zschech. I'm just like, Apple Music must think I'm a lunatic, or they're like, oh, I get it. The guy's listening now. He went to go get some cold brew or something, and I don't mean like a cold brew. I mean cold brew. And the wife's, oh, time for some worship. They have no idea. So, but the interesting thing is this is one particular song, and I don't know the name, but it starts with this little piano vibe. And the moment I heard the guitar, I'm like, oh. So what he does is he puts himself in musical context where what he does then does it. Now, the interesting thing is like, and again, it gets me back to this thing that I was basically alluding to or trying to tackle, which is like, I think we all would love to have such a signature sound that in like one or two notes you're like, Joe Satriani, or Brett, right? And so I'm really kind of going, what was it about his legato? Because, as I listened to him play this type of idea and that type of idea, he kind of went through the Satriani library, but I was happy. It was restive and not, it was funny. It wasn't predictable. It was repeatable and enjoyable every sense because he played it with such command and beauty and authority. I'm like, he just kind of knew what to play. It's like, somebody who's really good at chords. If you have any friends, let's not talk about gambling. I'm not going to go down that rabbit trail. But somebody who just is really good at understanding how cards work and, kind of watching the cards as they're going around the table. They just kind of have a sense about how to play a hand, right? And he just knows how to play his hand exceeding. I mean, realize he is Joe Satriani, but the thing is to just watch how expertly he just kind of doled out at the perfect time he played it. And he just has exceptional instincts. So not everybody has Joe Satriani instincts. But we can learn to kind of go, okay, what are the Satrianiisms that are Dopplerisms that I can do? So my legato thing, I am actively, after this afternoon, going, what are some of the legato things? Because Tom Quayle is the guy that I listen to for legato. Unlike the Joe Satriani school, which is where I came from, the slides are on the first finger. Tom also slides on the upper finger, which for the most part is his pinky. So I'm wanting to be able to move in both directions, but there are certain rhythmic things that I'm going to be going for, and I'm going to create a thing that people are going to go, there's that thing that Doug does. I do those where I'm sliding between. Where I slide between pentatonic patterns. I've seen one other player do it, just kind of jumped into it for a minute, but it was after I'd done it. I think it was either Eric Johnson or Stevie Ray. Stealing my chops again. Those guys. But I was like, oh, there it is. Because it seems like such an obvious thing to do. Like Joe, he'll do kind of the lower note on the lower string, and the upper note. But my whole thing, it's kind of this one pattern sliding into the next, so it's not kind of an interval displacement thing. It's literally I'm gonna. But in any case, that's one I'm like, okay, I'm going to find a couple of ways to play that. And I'm going to play that in ways that you're like, oh, he did that on purpose. It wasn't like that he played it, he only knows one way to play. He decided, I'm going to whittle that puppy down, and when I go to that thing, and there's there was a thing that happened, I don't know, maybe 1987, something like that. And there was some recording that he did. And I'm basically playing thirds with the left hand. And the right hand is kind of doing this chasey thing. So that one's going to be in there. It's just like, it's going to be just like, okay. And that's literally something that's, 30 some odd, 40 some odd, ish years old. 35 years. Nice ripe wine. But the point being is like, what are the things that you can do? It's like, okay, these are some signature things that I can do that allow me to kind of go, I had something that I did that was unique. Didn't take people out of context or out of the framework, because context is a great word. But what was it that kind of allowed people to kind of go, and maybe it's sometimes even not even what they notice, it's what they feel. and just things you do, even whether it's with rhythms where you're kind of like, that's kind of a me thing. And it doesn't have to be fancy. It's just kind of like, that had a little signature to it. And that's a huge win. All right. Also, Brett, I also like to think about in the big picture, thank you, how my guitar will sound in context, in the big picture of how my guitar in context will sound to the audience. Yeah, I don't want to take their heads off with highs or harshness, nor do I want to be obnoxious with the mids. I try to stay away from any frequency from being too, I know POI means the word's going to be pointed, pointy, close enough, yeah. Friedman, what's going on? Great to see you. What do I think about using Line 6 Amplify TT on a worship set? I love the Bluetooth editing on my phone. So if you love the Bluetooth editing on your phone, I think Line 6, I know there are a lot of brands that we could associate with the house of worship. But I would say before Strymon strode into the universe, Line 6 would have been the most recognizable brand besides maybe the Fender Telecaster brand and model. Line 6 did so much. The DL4, those of us who remember that, HD500. I know there's an HD500 fan in the mix here that I'm anticipating we'll see here at one point or another, Sahara. And so, hey, what's going on, Matthew? So the point being is that one, if you can see a mobile device, enjoy that those however many hopeful decades you've got left before you have to actually put on some glasses and can actually read that thing. But that's a great workflow. Love it, love it, love it. And here's the thing, is that nobody in the congregation is going to go, oh, that wasn't a Helix. That was, fill in the blank, Pod Go, Amplify. The reality is we're looking to create atmosphere. Nobody's going to notice what the source of that is for the most part. I mean, guitar players, we think way too much about what people are actually listening to, incorrectly so. So that is awesome, and I love that that's great, and I think that's awesome. Well done. Thanks on the acoustic. I love playing acoustic. And with pleasure, the whole thing, my greatest joy ultimately is being able to share all this crazy stuff I spend studying and learning and then passing that on so it can hopefully bear fruit with others, right? It's this very kind of, I'm not a person that spends hours in the Word. I'm a bad influence there, so don't follow that lead. It's just not how, to a fault, I outwork my faith. One of the ways I take great joy in outworking my faith, though, is being able to hopefully help other believers and non-believers as well, but help them get closer to that thing that kind of allows us to use our gifts on a Sunday and in between and just amplify what God has done in us through our talents and have that kind of be this amazing 360-degree experience. The more you can kind of tap into, ruminate in, and then pour out, where the pouring out, again, it's that same thing about having more stuff that you're inspired by than you got time to outwork. It keeps you in this place of just like, it's a waterfall experience, and I love that, where it's just like, waterfall, every time you see a waterfall, there's enough water for it to fall. There's mist, there's a whole deal. So that waterfall experience is great. So I am deeply thrilled and humbled and honored and having way too much fun, but not too much. All right, Stephen. So good. Thank you very much, Friedman. Much appreciated. This was the one I weighed in. Hi, Doug. Would you have knowledge on where and how to get instrumental worship music for guitar? Blessings. Thank you. There was a guy that did some, and there is a conversation that I've had with one of the worship outfits out there about doing an instrumental version of a particular song. There was also a conversation at the beginning of COVID that I had with one of the folks that's at one of the larger institutions, not a church institution, but organizations that is actively involved in serving the church. about maybe gathering some worship folks together and doing some sort of instrumental thing, loosely called The Church Can Play or something like that. And it didn't happen, but that conversation is being kind of batted around, and I was actually thinking about it on the car ride back. And this other person, if it happens, you'll hear, and it's. But they reached out and they've actually got a song that's one of my favorite songs that they're like, "What do you think about doing this instrumental version of this?" But in the meantime, there was a gentleman, I'm not going to remember his name, that had done some really gorgeous versions of various Hillsong things. There weren't many. I heard one or two, but the one I heard, I was like, that's kind of close to what I would have wanted to do, which is one of the things I've been thinking about doing for a long time, is taking some of the really gorgeous pieces of music, some faster, but largely the ones that are a little bit more, that have a little bit more pacing to them, that they're just, not racing through. Because I think instrumentals in the worship space, or the instrumental segments in worship songs, the ones that I enjoy are the ones I enjoy most are where they really kind of, there's this moment of reflection, and the guitar becomes the human voice, as opposed to the human voice doing this thing, which is what I do when I talk. It's the human voice as the guitar telling a story. I think there's something very special there. So that is what I got for that. So I hope that is a help. Okay, I am moving over to the YouTube end of things. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Again, NTPL, great to see you. Always a pleasure. Alan, I love seeing you twice a week. That is such a thrill. And Brad, ditto. And Chris, I see you, I don't know, 3 times a week, or 2.5 times a week. So good. Working on patches. Good. Howdy. Good. Again, Deanne. Now a refugee. Oh, good. Oh, there we go. So, Forrest. What's going on, Forrest? How you doing? Hey, Doug. Now it's either a refuge from Facebook, which means YouTube, or a refugee from Facebook. Either way, hi. You've reaffirmed why multi-streaming matters. So thanks so much. Awesome. Chris Alexander, you too kind. Holy cow. I give something out. Hopefully, you know what? I'm sorry. Let me receive that. Awesome. Thank you. And again, giving is the best part. Okay. Thank you, Alan. I am going to be spending a lot. So you might wonder what this cabinet business is about. So basically, tomorrow, I'm preparing for this Sunday and tomorrow night's live recording of the service. But on Thursday, I'm going to be doing this thing for the Celestian FRLR, full range live response speakers, around the first videos. There's going to be a series of them. The first one's going to be around the Quad Cortex. So I basically have loaded various cabinets with these full range live response speakers, which is basically Celestian's FR speakers. So hence that. All about the 90s. Jem, I think I quoted your quote, but yes. Yes, and so Tim Pierce is a genius, for those of you who don't know. Session player. I met Tim when I was down at GIT in 1985. There's a place, and I think they're still there, called Performance Guitars. And a lot of the kind of the early Vi guitars before the Jackson guitars appeared. Well, actually, there's a blue guitar that Steve played a bunch it was actually the guitar that he was playing after the kind of the natural Strat and before the Green Charvel and before the Jacksons. He played a blue performance guitar, or performance guitars. And so I met Tim in the parking lot of Performance Guitars many moons ago. There we go, Sahara. Yep, there we go. You got this. I knew you were going to be here. So yes, so great to see you. Jam, Doug's timing is owned indeed. Here's the thing, is I'm working on it. I'm a work in progress, but the interesting thing is that the funk thing is, and you'll know this, Jam, because you play that stuff great. There's a lilt, so you're not perfectly sitting in the time, but you're relaxed and you're back. But it's got this kind of it's got this perch. It's really hard. Signature Satriani legato. Yep, Surfing with the Alien. So I mean, the funny thing is, technically it's his second album, but I mean, to produce an album. I actively use the word produce there. And to have that be that far back, that's iconic. And yeah, again, we echoed this. Brad Gillis, Gil Rock Ranch. Yeah, no, Brad's lovely. That's the stink eye. Deanne, awesome. Writing them out is one thing. Playing and saying them is another. Spoken like one of my students. All right, awesome. I love it. I've been working on that this week, and I'm sure you're doing well. On the freeway. Awesome. Yeah, there we go. Thanks, Brew. Love that. Absolutely. And that, this is one of the things. It gets back to my comment about the Freebird thing. I love that, that the A major scale and the B major scale and the G major scale, so long as you kind of play the same fingering, you can replicate that and just move it up and down the neck. And, these shapes, because it really, when we actually kind of go, okay, well, what's going on here? What are the note names? What are the numbers? How are they, again, the relative and the absolute? And that ultimately is, if I wanted to leave you with anything on the theory front, is what is the relative, kind of relationship between these pitches, and then as I map the distances between those pitches, map that to a particular key, then it becomes absolute for the key of A, B, C, whatever. So yes, 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 and yes. All right. Hopefully that little side jog I did, it's really simple. You're just starting off of each of the 7 tones. If you're starting the major scale off of its second tone, that's Dorian. If you took the first, third, and fifth notes of that Dorian mode, that would be the chord. Now, an interesting aside there is that minor pentatonic that I took there is actually, even though I'm not playing straight up the Dorian mode, is using the notes from the Dorian mode. I probably shouldn't have in the midst of but the idea is like you're just taking the major scale starting off at the second note and then I'm still working on those, but I don't actually know how to play that, but I know what the lick I'm trying to play is, which is why practice helps. All right. Again, the modes are simply taking the major scale, starting off of each successive note, and then kind of going, okay, well, which one of those notes am I going to drone them? And if that happens to be the second note of the major scale, you're hanging out, and in this case, in A doyen. Okie dokie. Thank you, my friend. Available on Amazon. Thank you. Well done. I did one mode a week. That is a great idea. And I actually had thought about doing some sort of... I did this crazy 30 lessons in 30 days. And thought about at some point doing mode of the week thing where it was kind of some sort of jam track and we, kind of lead people through the stuff. I'm going to come back to that at some point. So I'm going to take that as a little affirmation. So thank you for that. And we know dynamics make the song great. And then you added dynamics make a good song great. Amen to that. Yep. Okay. And we talked about the pickup. I can barely play guitar, forget playing my hand, laugh out loud. Well, here's the thing, and again, it's a matter of kind of going, okay, well, if you were to play your hand, what would that look like, right? What's the strategy? What are some things that you see people do? And I know that you're joking, and so, but like, all right, what are the things that I'm actively doing that, I'm kind of going, well, how actively am I trying to engage all the things that I've got that I could play with, right? That's really cute. That's great. That's awesome. Justin, what's going on, man? How you doing? Satrianism, that gets me in trouble in church, is the whammy bar scream. So that's a really funny story. I love your photo, by the way. Hey, look at that. Hang on. I'm going to bring, oh, there it is. Good. So the funny thing is that, I played with Joe at the NAMM show one year. We played on a Saturday night. And it was like the 20th anniversary of surfing or something. And so we drove home, I think after the jam, so I could be at church on Sunday morning. And my wife gave me such a hard time, like, way too many dive bombs for a Sunday morning. So I have been there. Oh, my word. There you go. I love that kind of affirmation. Tell you talk that over with Melissa. Yeah, no, so I feel you. Dan Huff, there we go. Gordon Kennedy. That's so funny. So I got a press release today about Gordon Kennedy and the Celestian speakers that he uses. So I will give a big shout out. Matter of fact, let's see if I can do this without breaking the internet. I'm going to read this because I thought this was, first of all, every so often, and this is valuable because it's actually kind of, Gordon is a brilliant player. Let's see. Let's get to my mail here. But this was also, first of all, it was extremely well written, but it's also very pertinent to us guitar players. So it's a press release from Margaret Sikelski, who actually handles all of the Celestian stuff. But this is Gordon Kennedy. She did this interview with him. I'm going to read a couple of things, but it was just really well done. But basically, his musical family, legacy, and the role of Celestian speakers in crafting his signature tones. And this is Gordon now, except it's me being Gordon's voice. I think the first amp I had that used Celestian speakers was an old 68 basket weave Marshall 412 with 20 watt speakers. If you can believe that. Poor guy. Says Kennedy. But the first time I paid attention to Celestian as a choice rather than as just what the amp manufacturer used when I bought a 1960 Fender Tweed Deluxe amp from a vintage show in Philadelphia. The speaker in it was trash, of course. Peter Frampton suggested to me, you should put a vintage 30 in there. I did, and I loved it. I used that Tweed Deluxe with that speaker for years and years. On the Fingerprints album, Peter used my Tweed Deluxe with a vintage 30 on a song on for that one song, Float. He liked it so much that he went and found his own vintage Tweed Deluxe. I think he has 3 now. I do too. But I just thought it was really kind of interesting. And Gordon, of course, brilliant guitar player. Bruce Adolph, publisher at Worship Musician, is a personal friend. I don't know Gordon, but I wish I did. And I wish I could borrow Gordon's amps. But yeah, that's awesome. Zachary, what's going on? Hi, I have a disability, but I love playing guitar around the house to worship music. I love you. Thank you very much. You know, the interesting thing is, I had a student who developed a some sort of thing with his hands. So I don't know, you know, kind of to what your extent your disability enables you or prevents you from playing the instrument. One of the things that I had him doing was using a left hand to do a, if you will, a hammer on from nowhere and do a slide, and then use the right hand to do a tap without a pull off. And there, that is a pull off, and that slide there. But it means that you could potentially find some things to do, and everybody loves to tap, I think. So, in any case, appreciate your being really straightforward, and welcome. Awesome. Let me know. Matthew, hey, I've got some stuff that I did as my style for sure. My problem is all the things I've got, I just cycle through my list of licks and then start over in a different order. So here's the thing is that I think one of the things is that sometimes we go through it like a jukebox, right? We're like, oh, 1A, 1B, you know, versus actually kind of going, okay. And I have the same thing. So there's certain licks I'm like, oh, I'm going to do this one, 1A, 1B, 1C, as opposed to kind of like, okay, when Joe does it, he's thinking something that's a little bit more like he's holding it back. And then when it's time to cast the check, you're like, oh, that he was ready and just waiting for that right moment. So that is to say that holding back thing. And again, having more steaks in the freezer than people are going to come over for dinners is an interesting analogy, but that'll work. So the idea is like, okay, I've got all these things here. Which ones am I going to use? There it is. There's the filet. All right. There's the T-bone. You know, there's the porterhouse, and they're similar, but they're not the same, right? But yes, and I'm honestly I'm on that same journey. It's like as I was soloing here, I'm kind of going, okay, so you know, what are the things that I'm going to play that are going to be like really purposefully something that I would repeat, but now I'm doing it as a stylistic widget. But without the kind of like widget genericness of it. It's just like, I'm going to use that thing there for very specific. And a widget is actually, in some sense, is a great analogy. If you can think about widgets being something that you would use with your heart and just kind of you're wrapping it in emotion, but you're going to go, I'm going to get this particular feeling by playing this particular thing here, and it's going to take the listener somewhere. Love it. There we go. Yeah, no, it's really cool. They have a special relationship. That's awesome. Oh, that's right. He is in the. That's right. The Petty Chunkies. I got it, Bruce. Hopefully, they'll be playing when we're in Nashville for the NAMM show. That's right. That's right. Yeah. There we go. Yes, I think he does have John Sebastian's 59 burst, and John doesn't. If John's still alive, hopefully he is. Adrian, Jimmy, a beg. I saw the egg because it was covered with something I had over it, and I thought you were going to go, Jimmy, Adrian leg. My bad. There we go. Yes, his father inherited and passed him down. There we go. Boom. Oh, John, what's going on? Thank you. Awesome. Great. Fantastic. Excellent. The feedback and affirmation is always appreciated, which is great. All right, you guys are chatting about gear. All right, let me just check in here real quick. What's going on, Sir Kim? There we go. Uh, I will gleefully answer that. So the question is, why do Gretsch guitars seem to work so well in modern worship? They're airbags. That is to say, they have this lovely floaty quality to them. But at the same time, almost like an air balloon, to get that air to sit in place where you can actually kind of inhabit the basket, if you will, of an air balloon, hot air balloon, you've got to kind of have some sort of structure. So what I love about Gretches is they have enough definition such that you hear the transients, but they have this warmth to them that you're hearing the air inside the body of the hollow body instruments. And ironically, as I was choosing guitars for the kind of, if you will, the cover of the show, because I always shoot something that's thematically hopefully tied to whatever the topic is. I was like, I'm going to go, I could have gone Telly, but honestly, I think in many ways that great Gretsch sound is really, Telly's close, but I think that Gretsch thing and, the kind of the Duesenbergs that were Gretsch inspired and so on and so forth. I think the Gretsch thing is a little bit more, if people can kind of go, what's the one guitar that if you can have any guitar, not necessarily the ones that you currently own, but, it's like, and you had $5,000 to go out and buy, and it's like, maybe some sort of custom shop, Strat or Tally, I get it. But I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'd like to get White Falcon, right? It's just kind of like, which I don't have, but I've got the signature. Bruce will remember, Chet Atkins, buddy. Gosh darn it. That is a lovely instrument. So that's kind of my go-to when I need to Gretsch. That guitar is just lovely. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and Filtertrons do a thing that no other pickup does. That's correct. They are just the Gretch Pickups. It's a whole journey that's really unique. And the other thing about Gretches is they can kind of get kind of nasty too. I mean, you think about rockabilly and I'm just gonna say it. Sorry, it slipped out. The Cult. What a totally inappropriate name. But like fire, like Billy Duffy rocking the Gretsch. And as long as we're gonna go there, let's go to Izzy. Izzy was frequently with a Gretsch or an ES 135, which Bruce and I were talking about ES 135s earlier. They can rock and they can rock and roll just with, they just have an amazing sound. So, and the Filtertrons and all the different things, they're just great. All right, ladies and gentlemen, at 7:58, we're 2 hours in, and I think I've gone through the various things. So what I'm going to do, you got it. We're going to close out in prayer. First of all, thank you. Second of all, Lord, or first of all, Lord, thank you so much for community, where we get a chance to be. There's so much going on in this world where people, you put on your work mask. Sometimes we have to be part of who we are. It's really nice, Lord, that you celebrate us, warts and all. And, it's lovely to have a place where we can kind of reveal, whatever it is that we're like, hey, this prevents me from doing this or this prevents me from doing that, whether it's practice or knowledge or, whatever it is, a physical thing, impairment, whatever it is, Lord, you work with us and you meet us, more than halfway. And you're so gracious about it. And you give us this gift of music. And it's such a thing. And I know every week I kind of say thank you, but I can't say thank you enough. And I can't say thank you enough for all the people that I have the privilege of hanging out with here in community, being able to commune with one another around, the gift of music and how we can get better at doing this. And ultimately, I know that you find joy, that it brings us joy to be able to do this in the house of worship. So I pray that tonight's 5 points: find fertile ground to sprout fruit from, and that these are more than just live streams. That we're actively trying to produce fruit. That people, come out hopefully inspired to find new things to do on the instrument with some practical approaches. And I don't normally pray about playing, but it's important because it's a reward that you give us. And so, Lord, I just pray that people really are able to take some of this and just kind of go, I can actively apply that to what I'm doing today, tonight, tomorrow, this weekend. Lord, I pray that we're having more opportunity to actually come together again. So, Lord, I just pray that everybody here, their families, their friends, and everybody in general just would be safe. And I just give thanks again for this community and thanks for the privilege to serve and to be able to serve together. It's one thing to just kind of serve on your lonesome. It's another thing to be able to serve in the framework of a community that has emotional dividends that are incredibly meaningful because you get a chance to see where when you make a deposit in people's lives, you get a chance to see, when you're actively making a difference and when you're kidding yourself. So, Lord, I just pray that you continue to keep me in a place of humility and servanthood such that I can really have a sense of how I can best serve people. And I just pray that, with all the people that tune into this show, live or after the fact or whatever combination, Lord, I just pray that you would bless them and that you would, just as is your way, just multiply the investment that they make. You're the great multiplier. We put in and you just give us so much more. And I'm just so grateful for that. So on Overflow, I just pray that you bless everybody here and their families and their friends. We ask all of this in Jesus' mighty name. Amen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, wish you an amazing week. Thank you so much. Again, what a privilege. And I pray that this, again, falls on fertile ground and it is fruitful for you in your journey. Thanks so much. God bless.